welcome to another episode of the Empowered Badass with Ophelia, your favorite aerial coach. As I was explaining, we're approaching a new season of podcasts and vlogs, and this time around, it's really important to me that we dive a bit deeper into the science. So if you go into my previous podcast, you will see I approach things a bit more in a general way. This is also quite important for anyone beginning training aerial to understand, but I'm going to try and dive a bit deeper into the more scientific approach of training and other stuff that can help you become better aerialists, but also train more sustainably. So I'm just trying to bring on the table my 30 years of experience as an aerialist. I've got over 30 years of experience as an aerialist, performer, and over my decade of experience as an aerial coach and flexibility coach and mobility coach. So today I want to discuss why every aerialist should include weight training in their routine. We always have this approach of being like, more aerial classes can make me better at aerials. So sure, I am not denying that at all. It's for sure, if you go, the more you go to aerial, the easier things get, and the easier you can see yourself progress. However, I am talking from someone who has had different experiences, not only as a coach, but also as someone who trained in a gym from a very young age. So let me tell you again a bit more about my story. If you don't know, I've had extensive corrective surgeries on my legs, and I spent a substantial amount of time doing physiotherapy, being in a wheelchair, being on crutches, and going back to training and going back to aerial. So why have I included weight training? First of all, there was a recommendation from my physiotherapist, obviously as a way to come back stronger and try and manage further and prevent further injuries, and just to bring back some strength, because obviously strength training is very important, especially as you get older. But it's important to start as soon as you can, because it works on a muscle density. It helps give a bit of a stimulus and a load, and it builds muscle to preserve good and healthy joint. Everyone knows that weight training and weightlifting is good for you. Resistance is good for you, and resistance beyond aerial. Aerial is a type of resistance training, but it's very different. It's a different approach. I started weight training when I was 16. So this has been 33 years ago. 23. Oh, come on. Not that much. 33 years ago, I started gymnastics and circus, but 23 years ago, I started lifting weights. And it has been actually life-changing, because it's been really limiting the amount of injuries I've had. They've still been there, they still existed. But as someone who's born with a certain birth defect, with also a lower back issue, which is a break in the spine, and with someone who has joint hypermobility, it's been really important for me to keep lifting weight. Now, as a coach, where has that felt very important for my aerial practice? This is what I'm going to approach here in this podcast. First of all, why every aerialist should include weight training. It is so important to build your endurance, your control, your stamina, your strength, your flexibility, right? So those are foundation becoming a really good aerialist. Yeah, so you integrating weight training can be really a game changer. And this is what I do as a personal trainer. My job as a personal trainer mostly is to teach aerialists how weight training really improves their aerial performance. Not only it enhances it, but it also prevents injury, which I think for me is already a massive win. And I will explain why it and how it does prevent injuries. All right, so why should you include weight training in your routine? First of all, it will build strength and power, because aerial art requires a tremendous amount of upper body, core, and lower body strength. It's an all over body practice. Everybody knows that aerial is not just an upper body thing. You need strong core, you need really strong shoulders, but you also need really strong hips and legs. All right, you need really strong hip flexor, you need strong quads, you need strong glutes and strong hamstring. Get these muscle groups more and efficiently. I'm not saying training aerial is not efficient, because obviously you use those muscle group, but weight training will focus and target this more effectively. And I talk about your classic deadlift, pull-ups, press-ups, squats. It will help build the raw strength. When I'm talking raw strength, it is strength that you will break down. When you do an invert or climb and you have to lift your legs up and you have to pull up, these can obviously get improved as you keep practicing aerial, but doing weight training will speed that up. I do not kid you, and I can guarantee that it is true. Injury prevention, well, a strong body is a resilient body. Weight training will strengthen your muscles, it will strengthen your tendon, your ligament, and it will be better support for your joint. So this is obviously crucial for aerialists that place their bodies in extreme position. If you ask any aerial or any circus artists that work at a high athletic level, they all do weight training. They will tell you all of them do weight training. And it helps for rebalancing the body, making sure that you work the movements in isolation so you make the movement more efficient and less strenuous when you practice the more complex move in aerial training. And by building the strength in this area, you obviously can prevent overuse injuries. You reduce the risk of strains and tears, because let me explain to you in a bit more detail this. When you practice a move, especially in an aerial context, the moves tend to be quite dynamic. They tend to be quite complex. You need to perform an invert straddle, and an invert straddle requires your hip flexors, your pelvic floor, your core, your lats, your shoulder muscles, and it requires it all at once, and it requires it over and over and over and over and over. So what happens if, for example, a couple of muscles are not responding always well, or if you are consistently needing the momentum, such as kicking the legs up, you are going to pull and pull on the muscles that are being underused or are being underworked. And those muscles are very likely to get injured or strained, yes, or tear, because you are not training it, and therefore you're not using it, and instead you're going to be straining it because you're going to be pulling it in the wrong way. So you might not feel it straight away, but you will definitely feel it as you keep doing it and doing it. And with aerial training, I'm saying that as well as someone who does this, right? We don't always perform the moves with the most amazing technique, especially at the beginning or when you get tired. We don't always perform the moves perfectly. And when you do this over and over and over in a tiny bit of a wrong shoulder placement, then you can really screw yourself up in the long term. No one, I don't know who listens to this, who had injuries in the knees, in the hips, in the shoulders, but everybody knows how annoying being injured is, because you can't practice what you love for such a long time. So weight training can really help prevent that. I'm not saying it will cure all your injuries and you'll never get injured again, because aerial is a very risky practice and we always get injured anyway. Preventing and making this more sustainable as you age and as you keep also increasing the challenge in your practice, it's so crucial to include that in your routine. Obviously, I'm talking about the injury prevention and building strength and power, but it also enhances your performance just because it will help build better and muscle endurance and stability. When we do aerial training, obviously we do use the entire body and we do some moves, but don't do 12 repetition of the same move 3-4 times in a set, or 3-4 times per week, which is very different when you go to a gym, right? When you go to a gym, you do 3 sets of 12 reps and you would do 3 workouts per week, 2 or 3 workouts per week. So this can help you build a better endurance and also stability, because you don't, again, we break down movements into isolations, yes? So you do, for example, a straddle invert. And with the straddle invert, you use, like I said, again, your hip flexor, your core, your shoulder, and your lat. When you go to the gym, you're going to do a lat pull down, and then you're going to do push down, and then you're going to do leg raises. You break down, and maybe a leg press. You break down the muscles, or you break down also the movements into muscle groups, and you strengthen into muscle groups. So therefore, the weight training kind of breaks down the more complex moves and it creates more strength into the isolation movement. So then your more complex move, holistically, you become stronger. You start connecting the whole much better and more effectively. Yes, so obviously for aerialists, this translates to better control, the ability to hold poses longer, and making sure you stay stable in some more challenging poses. Exercises like squat and lunge can obviously improve the stability as well, because lunging, you are unilaterally working, meaning you do one side and then the other, and that can help also make your transition smoother and a lot more controlled. The next thing is obviously improve body awareness and alignment, because when you break down certain movements into isolated exercises, you start noticing how well or how not so well you move. So, for example, when you do unilateral work, especially if you do dumbbell shoulder presses and you start pushing the dumbbells overhead and you start feeling a shoulder clicking a little bit, or you struggle to push from your less dominant side, and then you realize that I'm not so balanced. I'm not moving the same way. And again, I'm telling you this because that happens to me, and it still does. It still does. I still go to the gym and I'm still like, you know what, my left shoulder doesn't move the same way. I can feel my left shoulder blade, my left collarbone, my left shoulder just does not move the same way. So going to the gym and lifting weight provide me this awareness here, and so I can try and correct that. So as a coach myself, when I work with people who are coming out of rehab, weight training for me is the nice transition between physiotherapy and going back to your exercise. It's very important. So in general, if you don't have any injuries, weight training can still gap your skills, still gap your misalignment, and it closes the gap as well in rebalancing your body from your dominant and your non-dominant side. And because rebalances the body as well, you become stronger. If you balance the body left to right, you become so much stronger as well. So weight training really helps understanding how your body moves, how you engage the correct muscles, how you can enhance your form and your technique, and that obviously leads to more graceful and precise movements, and again, less injury as well, less overuse and straining injuries. That is actually quite critical for us. I would say there is a very obvious element, again, to understanding the alignment of doing a pull up and doing a pull down and doing a push down. There are a lot of ways as well to get your single leg hocks on the hoop, for example, and to be using a leg curl machine to strengthen your hamstring and strengthen the left hamstring, because you would do your hocks always on the same side. And for example, doing a skin the cat, working all of these elements separately through doing rows and pull downs, and just really understanding how you're meant to be also using all these muscles together. Weight training really does provide that awareness more and more. All right, so obviously me as a coach, my job is to craft a weight training program for my clients. So when my clients are like, oh, I want to become stronger, to do this skills, to do this moves, I will craft a weight training program. And obviously we still work on the skills together. However, how can you do that? Not everyone can afford a coach, and not everyone can always understand how to weight train. Now, the recommendations I'm giving right now are more for people that already train at the gym and understand the basic concepts of weight training. If you don't, I would suggest that you get someone to help you with that. Or you can also platform in which is Real Performance Lab, where I've designed some weight training programs to help you with your aero practice. So some of them are general maintenance and strength, and some of them will be more skill specific as well. Yeah, so those are quite helpful. But I would say from this podcast, you will just learn the basic thing, how I work and how I design even a program myself. This is a very important golden nugget. So first of all, when you design a program, there are a few elements that you need to have a look, all right? You need to assess your needs. Assessing your needs is, for example, is there a move that you've been struggling to really nail lately? Are you struggling still to do a straight arm invert? Are you struggling with good skin the cat or good pikes? Anything that you feel you're like, I don't understand why I'm not progressing here. There's a lot of things that we progress, but there are always a few things where we're just like, there's something I don't quite get. There's something my body's not doing. So this is where, when you're in a class, you need to ask your instructor, your aerial coach, be like, listen, I do not understand why this is not happening. And the coach that's here on the teaching the class, obviously, please don't expect every coach to do that when they have to look after 15 different people. But generally, even me as a coach, as an instructor, when I lead a class, I will have a look. All right, I can see that you're not really utilizing your shoulders properly. I can see you're not squeezing into the core properly, and I can see that you're lacking a bit of that hip strength. So they'll be like, oh, you need a bit more hips, you need a bit more core, you need a bit more whatever. All right. And then it's up to you to be like, if you say, I'm not using my lats enough, all right, I'm going to start doing a bit more lat pull downs and the rope push downs, for example. So be like, I need to work on my hip strength. I'm going to use the leg press a little bit more, and I'm going to try and go really deep with my leg press. So if, for example, I would say if you struggle to pull in your gazelle, so like with that strong knee that comes in, you would allow yourself to go on a leg press machine and really try and get a bit more depth so you can build the strength of your depth. So you need to try and find exercises that mimics the movements that you are trying to achieve. So obviously, like I said, aerial movements are complex. You to become aware of what part you need to break down and what part you need to work on at the gym. Again, me as a coach, that's my job is to do that. But we're in a podcast, and I can't have a look at you. It's up to you to define a little bit more what you need to do. So start bringing this awareness, start empowering yourself with this awareness, and be like, I can feel that this is not working, and this is where I'm going to go at the gym and do that. So I do, for example, suggest to people that do want to do the single leg hocks, just go and do hip thrusts and do some leg curls. It's as simple as that. All right. So it's up to you to have a look at that and be like, this is what I need to do. So start selecting some functional exercises. All right. What I would say generally during a good deadlift, doing a good squat, doing some pull downs, pull-ups, bent over rows and shoulder presses, just you can't lose. You can't lose with keeping it simple at the beginning, but just do, your leg press. If you can't do deadlift, just leave the deadlifts out of the way. Just do leg press, leg curl, leg extension. You can do the things that open and close. You can do some lat pull downs. You can use the rope machine and push down. Just keep it basic. Use machines, use dumbbells, complicate your life, but break it down effectively. All right, you're going to start incorporating those isolation movements. You are obviously going to use also resistance band. You're going to start working a bit more onto also making healthier rotations, especially for your shoulder stability, which is crucial for aerialists. But you can also do some more core exercises like the one that I put in my aerialist starter toolkit, some conditioning. You can do whatever you do in your warm-ups and your conditioning exercise in aerial classes, you can also incorporate that in your workout. So maybe 1 or 2 elements of your conditioning will be in your workout program as well. So for example, I will give you an example of the workout I would do. Let me have a look. So here, I've done a sample workout, which you will find in the blog section. So in the show note, you will find access to this blog, and you will find this workout here that you can grab for yourself. And there will be also exclusive access to the Aerialist Performance Lab, my membership platform where I build all this program for you to become a realist and build a better and more sustainable way to train aerial. So for example, in my sample workout here, I've got improving straight arm, straddle, invert. You do your warm up. I've kept it really simple. We'll start with lat pull downs. Then your second exercise will be your hanging leg raises, which you can start with knee tucks. Leg raises and knee tucks. And this is what we're trying to do. Dumbbell shoulder press, which are helping with stability of your shoulders, strengthening the deltoid, and also maintaining arm position when you're hanging. The next thing will be your rows. Again, keeping it simple, dumbbell rows. Then we're going to do and do a little bit of resistance band shoulder rotation. So for example, you can do the rows and resistance band rotation in a superset, meaning the 2 exercise back to back. So the resistance band's quite easy. You're going to do some shoulder rotation. You can use a cable machine as well. This is like you pile a little bit into a superset, and a harder exercise with an easier exercise to accessorize your exercises and make your movement a little bit more healthy. And the last one I put, which is quite hard, is a plank to pike on the stability ball. So This is actually quite hard, which you can obviously just do. You can also do that in a TRX. You can do just knee chest on a TRX, so like straighten the arm, plank pose, and bring the knees to the chest, or pike up, keeping the leg straight and pulling all your way up. Plank to pike on the stability ball is hard. If that is too difficult, you can also do plank to pikes on the floor, starting the plank and pushing yourself into a pike, or that's called pikes in gymnastics. We call that downward facing dog in yoga. All of this you can find also on my YouTube channel. There are a lot of body weight exercises, conditioning flows, conditioning like for free that you can do. So I do suggest that you have a look at that. And obviously do remember to stretch as well afterwards, and you want to make sure that you cool down and that you focus maybe a bit more on your shoulders and your back, because this is a bit more of the workout. You can obviously do the same for your lower body, or you can do a whole over body. Now, for example, in the APL on my online platform at the moment, we've got a beginner and an intermediate whole body, so 3 workouts per week. So this is just to help maintain and build your strength. And I'll keep going and doing, for example, a straddle invert specific program. So if you are interested, this is quite brand new and I'm very excited to introduce this, but I have created an online platform where we can train to be better aerialists sustainably. So not just doing aerial, but actually with an array of programs, including mobility, flexibility, rehabilitation, and weight training, just make you a better aerialist outside aerial classes. So there are conditioning programs, strength program, and skill specific program that are on this platform. And the link to access this will be in the show notes as well. So that is pretty much it for me, explaining the importance of weight training for aerial. I hope that you start to see the value of doing weight training, because I really do personally believe that it can make you a better aerialist. And also, it's more sustainable in the sense that you are less likely to overtrain rather than go 5-6 times a week to an aerial class. I know it's so easy and we all get addicted to it. I agree, they're very fun. But at the same time, I would say make sure that you integrate other things in your routine to make sure that it stays sustainable in the long term. If you found that you've learned stuff, please do share it to your friends and other fellow aerialists, and do make sure that you comment as well and let me know. You can tag me and you can also comment, because I speak to a camera by myself and sometimes it is nice. I see sometimes people watching it and all that, but I don't know who, and it's always nice to see who does that, just to know that there are some actual human faces behind the people that listen and watch this. So thank you so much for spending time with me today, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.